Hey guys, hope you're doing good. Jonathan here. It's been a really busy week again, but here I am trying to at least upload one weekly video. So I'm back with those guitar blocks again. I think since I renamed them, this will be the second guitar block. Before it was called Let's Try Something New. And here what I like to do is try to get a little bit outside of my comfort zone, try to bring some concepts that I once learned that I think in the moment made me a better guitar player because I was discovering the fretboard, I was getting better at rhythm. In the moment, I think they really helped me to become a better guitar player. So by now you know that these blocks have a slower pace. It feels like we're hanging out together, we're having a lesson here, you're sitting in front of me on my chair and we are talking music and playing guitar. Let's talk about this concept that I once learned by my teacher, Jody Fisher. He was my jazz teacher. And now jazz guitar, guitar by itself it's a hard thing to learn, right? And if we talk about jazz guitar, it's even harder. I think jazz guitar is one of those things that you actually put so much time and effort and it gives you back so little. But sometimes you find these concepts that really give you instant gratification, meaning you actually understand the concept and make it part of your playing really fast. In this case, we're going to talk about upper and lower neighbor tones, also known as enclosures. Now, to understand enclosures, you really need to have some concepts under your fingers, right? So this is going to be a great fretboard lesson review. So now the first concept is going to be the CAGED system. Now, the CAGED system is just a way of playing the 7 notes of the major scale all over the fretboard. There are many other ways of doing this, but I think the CAGED system is the most effective one. So the way that it works is you have the word CAGED. Each one of those letters is going to represent an open chord, right? The C letter is going to represent C major, the A letter A major, the G letter G major, the E letter E major, and the D letter D major. Now the idea is for each one of these chords that actually has 3 notes, you can play a 7-note scale, right? And that will give you the major scale. Now I'm going to use the word CAGED in order, right? I'm going to start with the C shape, then the A shape, then the G shape, the E shape, and the D shape, right? So a good starting place will be the key of D. Because if I want to start with the C shape and I go to the key of C major, that is the most used key for understanding music theory, I'm going to start with an open chord here. And at the beginning, it's a little bit confusing to use open strings. So what I'm doing is just going a whole step up to D major, right? Again, I'm playing just 3 notes here. We need 4 more notes to have the 7 notes of the major scale, right? So if I play the C shape, again, I have 3 notes. I need to play 7 notes. I will have this shape. I'm gonna go slow because I'm not using papers on these lessons. So, right? Next shape is gonna be the A shape. Again, we're following the word CAGED, right? And I'm gonna have the key, the D major scale that fits that A shape. Next one is gonna be this really uncomfortable G shape, right? And it's gonna be like this. Now this shape, we learned it at the beginning like the minor scale. If we will start from B, but because we're starting from D, we call it the D shape, the G shape, sorry, right? I've always had a hard time playing this chord. Ah, there we go. It's a little bit annoying to play. Next shape is gonna be the E shape, starting on D. Right, that's the A shape. And the last one, this is a little bit uncomfortable too. I've got the D shape, right? And what I like to do is just bring this F sharp note, 2 octaves lower to that low E string, right? And what I'm gonna do here is start that shape, but from the root that is right here. So I'm gonna go. Right, all the way down to that D string, right, that D note. So here I covered the 7 notes of D major all over the fretboard, right? Sometimes it can be confusing for people here because whenever you want to understand modes, you need to realize that a mode is just the same scale but starting from a different note, right? Think about numbers, like each one of these notes become a number, right? Instead of going C, D, E, F sharp, and so on, we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So a mode will just be starting those same 7 numbers, but from a different number. Meaning instead of starting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you go 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, right? Again, it's the same 7 numbers, but because you're starting from the second number, the order changes, right? Because remember, a major scale is not symmetric. It has an order of whole step to the first note, whole step to the second note, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. So that order of intervals, if you start from a different note, is going to give you a different order, right? If that makes sense. So think about this. The modes is just the same 7 notes, but starting from a different place. But the shape doesn't change, all right? Now the next step is going to be triads. We want to try to see the triads inside of these shapes, right? We're going to grab just one shape as an example. I'm going to go for the E shape. D major, E shape, right? I'm going to have, again, right? I will have this scale, right? And the idea is to try to see the 7 chords of D major inside the shape, right? For example, if I want to play the D major triads inside the shape, I will go strings 1, 2, and 3, D major, strings 2, 3, 4, D major, 3, 4, 5, D major. I wouldn't go to this one, right? Even though it's a D major, this note is leaving the shape, right? So this triad doesn't belong to the E shape, right? So I have just this one, this one, this one. Now I know that in the key of D major, E minor is the 2 chord, right? So I'm going to see E minor here, right? Strings 4, 5, and 6, 3, 4, 5, and then 1, 2, and 3. So I have 3 E minors here. Next one will be F sharp minor. That's the 3 chord, right? In the key of D major. And I have an F sharp here, strings 3, 4, and 5, and F sharp here, 2, 3, 4, and an F sharp here, 1, 2, and 3. So I have 3 chords. And so on, right? The next one will be G major, and I have 4, 5, and 6. I have 2, 3, 4, and I have 1, 2, and 3. And so on, right? You want to try to harmonize the whole scale inside the shape, right? So that will be the next level. We got CAGED system, we got triads. The next one is going to be to try to play the arpeggios inside each one of these shapes, right? Again, I'm going to stick with the E shape in the key of D major. And now I'm going to play 7th arpeggio. So now I'm going to have 4 note arpeggios, right? So for example, for D major 7, that's the 1 chord, I'm going to have this. Slow. Right, that will be the 1 chord, right? For E minor, that is the 2 chord, I will have this. Right, for the 3 chord, F sharp minor, I will have this. Let me give you one more example. For A major, the 4 chord, I will have this. Okay, let's go to A7. I will have this. And so on. All right? So if you actually can get those 3 concepts, right? If you can really learn those 3 concepts, you really have covered 90% of fretboard knowledge, right? 90% of what this left hand can do, right? If we compare the left hand with the right hand is the hardest one to teach. This is the one that is super personal, right? It's where your rhythm is at, right? This is the one that is really hard as a guitar teacher to teach to somebody. It's so personal. But the left hand is the one of the information, the one that you actually take time to understand the fretboard, to know what the notes are, you know, to understand chords and triads and scale, right? So if you can cover these 3 concepts, the CAGED system, the triads, and the arpeggio, you're going to probably cover 90% of what the left hand can do in the pop rock kind of funky world, right? If you want to get into jazz and all those things, there is a little bit more to cover, right? And today we're actually going to cover one of those topics, where there is enclosures. But in order to arrive to that point, these 3 concepts are going to really help you out, right? Again, CAGED system, it's a way of playing the 7 notes of the major scale all over the fretboard. Triads, you want to try to see the 7 chords of the major scale inside of these shapes. And then 7 note arpeggio, that is like playing the 4 note arpeggio over inside of these shapes, right? Seventh chord arpeggio, not seventh note. So those three concepts, right? Super important. So let's talk about enclosures. I'm gonna use B minor 7 as an example. That's the sixth chord in the key of D. Now again, I'm gonna play that E shape. So I'm gonna be playing again the D major scale, but I'm using the E shape, right? So the first thing I wanna do if I'm playing a B minor 7 chord inside the E shape is to find the minor 7 arpeggio, right? And again, if I want to look for the lowest note of B minor 7 inside the E shape, I'm going to actually find a D note. That is the minor third of B, right? So I'm going to go minor third, fifth, flat 7, root, minor third, fifth, flat 7, root, minor third. That's the arpeggio right there. Now the idea here is going to be to enclose each one of these notes with a note that is a whole step above and a note that is a half step below, right? For example, if I'm using that D note, the minor third of B, right? On the high string, 10th fret. If I go a whole step up, I'm gonna go to E. And if I go a half step down, I'm gonna go to C sharp. So I'm enclosing this D note with E and C sharp, right? And the idea is to enclose all the chord tones of B minor 7. Now, if you notice, any time that I land on my chord tones, I'm always landing with the middle finger, because either I'm gonna go a whole step up with my pinky or my ring finger and a half step down with my first finger, right? So a really good practice is to try to play the arpeggio just with the middle finger. Go like this, really slow. Whenever I'm doing these guitar vlogs, it means that I haven't played guitar the whole week. So I'm kind of practicing alone while doing the video. Like my fingers are really, really cold. So I'm just practicing the arpeggio with the middle finger. Right? That's it. So let's try to enclose these chord tones, again with a note from a whole step above and a half step below. It's gonna sound something like this. Now you can also change the order by first going from a half step below and then a whole step above, something like this. You can also just go from a half step below, something like this. To add even more tension, you can go from a half step above instead of a whole step above. This time I'm going to start from the lowest string, something like this. So now this concept can be really helpful whenever you're taking a solo over just one chord. Sometimes the harmony doesn't move and you need to find ways to create movement and tension, right? Enclosures are really going to help you to do that. So again, to review the lesson, first you need to have the CAGED system, right? That's just a way of playing the 7 notes of the major scale all over the fretboard. Then you want to harmonize each one of these shapes using major and minor triads and the diminished triad for the 7th chord. Once you feel comfortable with the CAGED system and the triads, then you want to play those 4th note arpeggios, right? Meaning major 7, minor 7, dominant 7, and minor 7 flat 5 in each one of these shapes. Once you feel comfortable with these, then you can start exploring those enclosures. Alright guys, it was a busy week, but I'm glad I got a video done. I hope you find that useful. See you next time. Bye bye.